It's been like 3 or 4 weeks since my previous upload. And y'all know that whenever I go that long without uploading, either I'm really working on myself, I'm just simply taking a break, or I found something else to put all of my time and effort into. Don't get me wrong, this YouTube thing is great. It's fun. It's a piece of me now, but it is still a hobby. It is something that I do in my free time, a productive use of my free time. But when I have something that takes priority over this YouTube thing, oh, best believe I'm putting this phone down and I'm getting to work. You know, a quick update on my life, and then we're going to get into the main subject matter. Quick update in my life. Life has been great. Life has been great. I'm happy. But the funny thing is, and this is this masochist in me, when I'm happy, I'm not fighting anything. And this was like a conversation that I had with myself, because I was like, yeah, don't get me wrong. It feels good to fight back against the machine. It feels good to fight back against corporate America. It feels good to fight back about victimhood mindset. It feels good to fight back against the pharmaceutical companies, the FDA, the government, the lower entity, the lower vibrational entities, the demons, It feels good to fight against all of that. But when you really sit down with that and you go through the eye of the storm where everything is calm and peaceful and there's nothing attacking you, it doesn't feel like there's anything that you need to fight back against at this very moment, you're like, wait a minute, who am I? Why is my identity so locked into my enemies? Who am I? How can I be my true, authentic self if I don't know what the heck I'm supposed to be doing? So whenever I get lost at that level, I go to the big guy, the big woman upstairs. I'm like, yo, mom, hey, yo, daddy, God. What y'all call God. I'm like, yo, what am I supposed to be doing? Don't get me wrong. I'm very appreciative and I'm grateful for all the blessings and the happiness I've been feeling, these past few months. I've been feeling good. I've been on a nice little wave, but I'm also feeling a little complacent. And that makes me uncomfortable. And I love living uncomfortably, but that's the bad uncomfortable. I don't like being complacent. I don't like not knowing where I'm supposed to be sending my energy. What am I supposed to be doing? I don't know what to do with my hands right now, And this was like a few months back. But this is like a recent development. It's like where I finally got my answer. I found that thing. I was my parents were visiting like a month back now at this point, like a month ago. And like I was just sitting there talking with them. And like, I reached over just bored talking with my grandma, my mom, whatever. And I just flicked out a random little pamphlet book that I bought months back. And I just randomly flicked it out and I opened it up and I looked at it and it felt like my heart jumped. Like just reading the stuff and what they were talking about, like using the UCC. UCC is Uniform Commercial Code. These are the codes that you're supposed to be defending yourself as a sovereign citizen. Now, this isn't about the sovereign citizen movement. I'm a sovereign citizen and blah, 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 blah. No, the sovereign citizens are like the immature version of actually utilizing and applying the law. They run around saying, I'm sovereign, I don't recognize the rights. They're using all this stuff, but a lot of them aren't doing it right. And that's what I'm learning. Once again, before we continue, this is not legal advice. This is not financial advice. I'm just a dude that's learned some stuff and I'm passing it along to my internet friends. All right. But nevertheless, man, I flipped out that book about UCC codes, and I'm just flipping through, and they're telling you how to apply to get the right jurisdiction. Because when you walk into a regular court, usually by default, what's happened is these courts are operating under admiralty court, maritime law. They're not in here to see the good of man. They're seeing who needs to pay what. Because in 1933, the United States of America went bankrupt. So in order to pay off their debts, they leveraged all the property, all the lands, and even all of the people in the country. And I may be messing up a little bit. This is why I said I'm new to this. I'm only like 2-3 weeks into this stuff. But oh my gosh, it's amazing. Because when they did this, what they did was they established your name. Everybody, go look at your mail. Go look at your mail. If any of you have a bill, go look at your bill, whether it's a paper version, which you need to go get off of that paper list and go get paper. And if I don't get back to explaining that, my brain is going. It's been a while. Y'all know I'm about to start yapping. Okay. But go look at your mail. Don't you find it interesting that all of your mail, all of your name on all of your pieces of mail is in all caps? So my name is Prince. My name, when you normally spell it's capital P R-I-N-C-E. Lowercase R-I-N-C-E. But on the mail, it's all caps, P-R-I-N-C-E. And some people might think, oh, that's just for legibility. Oh, that's just how they input things into the system. Well, you're partially right with that. That is how they input it into the system. But you do not realize that that is a fictitious entity that you have been tied to. That capital name is a government entity, basically. It's something that's issued to you by the government that was first created through the signature of your birth certificate. When your mom signed over the birth certificate, she made you technically property of the state. Okay, there's different ways to word that, but nevertheless. So that's when the all capitals names was formatted. So the all caps name it still responds to statutes and codes. But the natural person, me, Prince Oliver with the lowercase, is a natural citizen, a natural person, and therefore only operates under the jurisdiction of common law. But when you walk into these courtrooms, they're operating under maritime law until you back them into a corner or until you get them to openly, change the jurisdiction right there in front of you. You see, and this is why people go into court and they use the Constitution. Oh, this is my right to do this and this and this. And they say that, oh, basically, if you keep on mentioning the Constitution, we'll hold you in contempt of court. And you'd be like, well, how is that? How can that be? I'm in court. How is me using the Constitution in court something that's going to get me hemmed up? Because you're using two different jurisdictional languages. You're operating under common law, trying to use all these constitutional laws, but they are operating in maritime law, which is contract law, which is consumer law. When you walk into court, all they're trying to figure out is who's paying. And for those of you for criminal charges, it's like a lot of the times, like I forgot what the proper word is, but at the end of everything, your whole sentence is like basically turned into like a bond or some type of piece of paper. All of the stuff that you did, it turns into a piece of paper, and that's really what it is. That's your non-payment of taxes on that thing. But like I said, I don't know everything, but it's just so crazy when you hear this stuff. One of the things I've been learning is like with your contracts. This might sound so simple, but I want y'all to hear this and learn this the way that it finally started to click with me. First piece of advice: read your contracts. Mind blowing. Y'all know I only come with the mind blowing stuff you never heard before. Read your contracts. Yes, I know you should have heard that before. Read your contracts, because oftentimes in these contracts, like we don't realize that we are indeed minors. You could be a 30-year-old, 40-year-old, 50-year-old, 60-year-old, 90-year-old, 10,000-year-old minor. If you do not ever prove the ability or prove that you have the capacity to contract. When you are 18 years old, you are considered an adult, right? So like 18, I'm an adult. Yeah. But we look at that age and we just run out there and say, I'm an adult. No, you have to realize that we live under a contractual jurisdiction. When you are 18 years old, you are now an adult and can therefore claim that your minor account, your all caps name, you are supposed to take over that and start operating your business through that entity. But instead, a lot of our parents, no disrespect to them, a lot of our parents, a lot of our ancestors were very ignorant to truly understanding their own finances. Y'all think going to work is normal? Why is it that all of our default state is going to work and we all hate it? Unless you're in a field that you truly do love, it's your passion, you would do it for free. Otherwise, you show up to do this job. You hate your job, you hate your boss, but for some reason, that seems to be the way the norm is. All the people are operating, they don't like this, but that's supposed to be normal. So we all just do things we don't like doing. No, we're ignorant. You're still thinking like a child. I do this and I get money. No. Guys, let me tell you some crazy shit, right? First off, like I said, get off of auto pay and paperless billing. Okay? You need to go look at the Bill of Exchange Act. There's a Bill of Exchange Act, and there's go look at the Federal Reserve Act, specifically Section 16, Part 1 and 2. There's so many other things, and maybe they'll come up while I'm still yapping. But nevertheless, when you get a paper check, I want y'all to go look, even if you get the digital one, just go look at it. When you get your bill, a lot of y'all get your bills and you scared to look at them. Oh, that's from my credit card. Oh, that's my car payment. Oh, I ain't even gonna look at that. I'm gonna put that in the drawer. I'm just not gonna look at it. If I don't look at it, it doesn't exist, right? No, guys. I'm still working on this. I'm still trying to describe it the proper way. So this is not financial advice. This is not legal advice. But what I learned is, a lot of those bills, well, they are bills, but those bills are supposed to be exchanged for checks. So if you go look at your bill, you'll realize that there's the top part of the bill, and there's the part that it's like a perforated part that you could just rip off. What you're supposed to do is you're supposed to take that bottom slip, technically the whole slip, and you're supposed to do something. Don't go just out here and doing it. I'm not going to say that what you're supposed to do. You need to go find out what you need to do, But what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to exchange the bill. The bills that they're sending you in the mail, that's free money. That is a dividend check. Because if you used your social security number in any form of business, like for your utility bills, your Wi-Fi, your cable, your car, your leases, student loans, anything that you used your social security number for in your application, that is a consumer credit transaction. So with that being a consumer credit transaction, you are owed some things. Now, I've heard two different camps. This is why I'm not telling you what's the one way to do this stuff. Well, from my research, there's multiple ways to do it. There's 1,000 ways to skin a cat. But whatever way you choose, you have to do it right. So find your lane and master it. You know what I'm saying? But nevertheless, this is why it's like you get bills in the mail. You have to look at this word. They put the stuff right in front of you. You get bills in the mail, right? And there just so happens to be this piece of legislation called the Bills of Exchange Act. I have a bill, and there's this act that tells me how to endorse my bills, how to accept bills, and how to send this off and get it applied to the principal's balance. Wait, I have a bill. This is the Bill of Exchange Act. Am I supposed to use this? Oh, because what you're doing is you're paying on top of something that you've already paid. Now, I've seen different people argue about this and say different things. So once again, go do your research. I'm just speaking to y'all from where I'm at. I'm excited. I'm brain dumping a bunch of knowledge on it. But nevertheless, like with these bills, you're supposed to exchange them. You can send it to your principal's account. Your principal account is known as your straw man. Straw man is like the baby version of the proper words, the banking and legal words. Eliminate the word straw man from your vocabulary. If you are doing business with a bank or you are in court, do not bring up the word straw man. The word straw man has no legal basis. That's just what we call it out here in the streets. You know what I'm saying? You need to be calling it things like your estate, your escrow, like your own personal escrow account, your own personal treasury, the principal's account, the principal's balance. You are the agent for your principal. Yes, even though your all caps name is a fictitious entity that is not alive, is not real, you are supposed to operate through it as the agent. You are supposed to file power of attorney documents with all these places. You are supposed to revoke the power of attorney that they automatically took in. When you sent in the application, you are supposed to send in your application with a tender of payment. The tender of payment is instructions. How many of you applied for anything? How many of you have paid bills and you didn't give them instructions? A lot of you don't realize, especially if you're still paying with checks, a lot of you don't realize that you're doing blank endorsements of your checks. All you're doing is you're sending in a check and you're sending it to this company. Because when all you do is sign it with no instructions, with no anything, with no proper endorsement, all you're doing is putting your name on it and you're giving them a check. Well, let's just say you giving a check to the Bank of America, right? It's like you're sending your check in to them. Here you go. And what they're doing is saying, oh, thank you for your check. We don't know what this is for, so thank you. Thank you for your gift. Thank you for your consideration. See, a consideration, once you learn legalese, you realize that consideration is, oh, thank you for thinking about us. Thank you for doing business with us, and can be used like that. You guys look at the context of what's going on. But the word consideration basically means that there was some type of financial gift giving. So they say, thank you for your consideration, but then one of the things I'm learning, I still haven't figured out how to do this properly. So once again, if y'all know something that I'm talking about, drop the details in the comments, help everybody, but one of the things is like, when you send in an application for anything, in that moment, it's paid for. So when you have a car loan, when you have a lease and all that type of stuff, all of it's paid for already. And everything that you're paying on top of it is extra that the companies are just holding, or they're putting it into an escrow account that you're supposed to come back and claim. We're not coming back and claiming it. What do you mean you're supposed to claim things? Once again, I'm not an expert. I know this generally, but there's a term called securities interest. Go look at your car loan. Go look at your credit card agreement. Go look at your car loans. Go look at your lease agreements. Go look at all these contracts that you signed with your social security number. You granted them. It says somewhere in there that you grant us security interest. your original contract based off of your principal's account, based off of your all caps name, based off of that fake entity that strawman people tell you that means that you don't have to pay anything. You don't have to pay anything, but you have to do the right stuff. And what's happening is, through that security interest, through that consumer credit transaction, you are supposed to be gaining interest off of that. But that interest, all those interest checks that we're getting, we think that those are bills that we need to pay off. We are supposed to accept, endorse, and transfer them. So, you see why I haven't been able to make a video in a few weeks? I've been busy. You know what I'm saying? Like y'all don't realize the game that's being ran on y'all. Like, do y'all know that by using dollars, by using Federal Reserve notes, right? Yep. Okay, it might come up backwards, but if you look at the top of your thing, it says Federal Reserve Notes, FRNs. The Federal Reserve Note is this money that you might hear in the news that they just print out of nowhere, right? This thing is also, the FRN is also looked to as a floating rate note. That means the value of it keeps changing. It doesn't have a static price to it because we're not on the gold standard. Now, I do think that we are returning to it, but until that does happen, these pieces of paper are just that, pieces of paper. They are debt notes. Your Federal Reserve note. Let me be dramatic again. Let me bring this thing back out. All right? With this thing that we are fighting for, we're killing for, we're stressing ourselves out for, these things that we're selling all this quality time of our life, this thing that's imprinted with all these insignias, these sigils, these spells, all this occult stuff, all the stuff that we're fighting for is a debt note. See, a lot of y'all don't understand credit, right? Oh, I'm not getting a credit card. Credit cards are scams because you're ignorant, because you are still a minor, because you lack the capacity to contract, okay? We are supposed to be utilizing credit. That's what we are supposed to be doing. But we've been so scared off of it because, if I get a bill in the mail, I can't pay that. Then they start charging me extra. It's a scam. First of all, they only charge you extra when you miss a payment. So that's that. But nevertheless, those credit card bills that come in the mail, you're supposed to redeem it and send it back to them. Now, I'm being very broad with that, but that's what you're supposed to be doing. But these debt notes are exactly that, debt. You cannot pay a debt with a debt. So when you're paying cash for things, I walked through the card, I paid cash for it. They just pocketed half of that because that car was paid for with your application. Now, I haven't figured out the proper way to do this, but like when you apply for a credit card, it's like first of all, you're not supposed to be denied your own credit. That's something I learned. I haven't figured out the right way to articulate that and make it, workable, but let me plant that seed in y'all's brains. You're not supposed to be denied credit. If you apply for $50,000 of credit, your application becomes the promissory note that is given to the financial team, whether if it's of the bank, the car place, whatever. It's given to the financial team. That's given to the CFO, and the CFO goes to the Federal Reserve and transfers that for credits that they are supposed to come and bring back to you. However, because we don't have the capacity to contract, we don't know that he's supposed to give us that money. They say, thank you for your consideration. There's that word again. Thank you for your consideration. Thank you for your application that we turned in for money. However, we can't extend you your credit back. So, and a lot of you might say, this is too much, or this is too good to be true. Don't get me wrong, it's a lot of work. But if that was the case, why is there a withdrawal of application form? Why can you send why does that type of documentation exist? Why would I need to withdraw my application? You see? And this is why you need to learn this type of stuff if you are a so-called a U.S. citizen. A U.S. citizen is nothing but a slave. That's all it is. You are a U.S. citizen is the all caps name. You are not that U.S. citizen. That's something that was prescribed to you. You've been tricked into believing. You were tricked into believing that you are supposed to be under the control, under the jurisdiction of all these statutes and codes. Statutes and codes are not laws. Okay? They're not laws. So they have no jurisdiction over us until you give them the jurisdiction. For example, welcome back. Like, cops, for example. One of the things that cops do, the trick to get jurisdiction over you, is to say license and registration. Because one of the things, and go look this up, you do not need a driver's license. You do not need a driver's license unless you're doing commercial travel. So that means like if you're like working at your job or something, then yeah, you need your driver's license. But if you are driving from here to here, it's not driving when you are a sovereign citizen. When you are a national, I forgot what the term is. Like a national resident, national alien resident citizen, something along that effect. When you are operating under your proper title, it's like you're traveling. You're not driving. And I've heard people laugh at that statement. Oh, what's the difference? It's the same thing. No, it is not. You didn't even know what the consideration was 2 seconds ago. You thought you were supposed to pay bills 2 seconds ago. So you don't think that there's a difference between driving and traveling? Why is it that when you're walking around and the cop wants to come investigate you, they say, oh, give me your license? Why do I have to give you my driver's license if I wasn't driving? Well, that's how they identify you. Well, yeah, but that's not illegal. That's not a lawful order to give me something that has nothing to do here. That has no lawful standing. Therefore, they're not supposed to be doing stuff like that. But that's how they get jurisdiction over you. Once you turn in once you give them that license, hey, he's operating under my jurisdiction. I can now tell him what to do. You know, in courts, if you walk in there and like I've seen ways you're not even supposed to walk past the threshold. You're supposed to get them to establish things before you even walk in there. But then, like, you know, the quickest thing that I've learned that that the judges will do in these courts is like they'll walk in and say, how do you plead? Guilty or not guilty? That's the first trap. Because if you walk in there and you go in there and you make a plea, whether it's guilty or not guilty, it doesn't matter. By entering a plea, you are acknowledging that you have to make a plea for some of their statutes and codes, thus giving them jurisdiction over you. That's why you're not supposed to answer, do you have a plea or anything like that? You're supposed to establish the jurisdiction. You're supposed to get yourself into common law instead of maritime law. The courts you have to understand that everything is private. The United States, like once again, when things are all caps, pay attention to that, because when they're in all caps, that means that it's something that means it's a privately owned. So like the United States corporation, when it's written as all caps, that's the corporation. The corporation is a private company, no different than Walmart, Netflix, Target. They operate under contractual law because the country itself, the United States government lost its sovereignty when it went bankrupt, and now the only way that it can operate is through contracts. You see what I'm saying? So like when you're operating under the privately owned United States of America, the United States is of America, there's those little nuances I'm still a little rusty with. But nevertheless, once you're operating under these things, you have to operate all the statutes and codes that they tell you, because you don't have personal rights until you accept the rights, until you start acting in the behalf of your natural rights. That's when you do this stuff. But the thing is, we've been taught, like I'm realizing how immature all of us have been when we say, oh, this game is stacked against us and they ain't never gonna let us do this. No, most of the slavery that you're complaining about, you signed up for. And because you don't have the capacity to contract, because you don't read your contracts, because you don't go back and learn this legal vernacular, because you don't learn about everywhere that you are operating as a child, and therefore you don't have a right to speak up. And they're going to keep running game on you until you prove that you know what you're talking about. It's like a hazing process in the fraternity. You don't get to be a natural born citizen until you do all the paperwork, until you fight the battles, until you take people to arbitration, until you take people to court, until you learn how to sue. Show us that you can operate in your capacity and we'll start treating you like an adult. But you see, one of the things that I'm learning too is like when you're in these people's lives that are teaching this, you can see the victimhood mindset. You can see the people that are fine with being a slave. You can see all the bots come up and try to distract you from the message. And that's what showed me that that's where I need to be. When you have people, like you have someone up here trying to show you how to free yourself. Someone out here trying to show you how to free yourself. And you got people say, no, stay shackled. Stay here with all us other sheep. Nah, bro, that's too much work. I ain't reading all of that. But you ain't gonna read all that, but you still gonna complain about the white man holding you down. No, motherfucker, you holding you down. Read. You know what I'm saying? Read. Oh my gosh. You know what I'm saying? But nevertheless, man, like I'm really locking into this stuff, and I'm learning every damn day. You know, my 4 o'clock in the morning regiment is on and popping. When I'm at work, I'm reading this stuff. Even if I'm not paying attention, I'm just putting this stuff in the background, just letting it play so it sinks into my subconscious. You know what I'm saying? You need to learn your rights, especially if you're an American. America, we really good with saying, I know my rights, I know my rights. What, name me four. Name me four, get away from the Constitution for a second. Name me four of your other rights. Oh, you can't do it, but you know your rights. Shut up. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, for example, your credit scores. See, there's this nuance with credit scores. Credit scores are ultimately useless in the end game. But for all of us as normal people waking up into our sovereignty, you know, what you need to realize, your credit score is what helps you get the physical things. But you need to learn the ins and outs, because for a lot of you, you don't realize that your financial institutions, these places, they're not supposed to be reporting certain information, certain personal information to these credit bureaus. So the ones that affect your score, they're not supposed to be reporting a lot of this stuff. So one of the things that I've learned is simply getting rid of old addresses. Getting rid of old addresses, like each address is just what I've heard. I'm just regurgitating, I'm parroting right now. So if you find something different, don't shoot the messenger, all right? But like, I've learned that just simply removing old addresses from your account, each one that gets removed is 5 points to your credit. Just getting those removed. So like, just think about that, right? For those of you that properly do the endorsing, you just pay off the entire loan all in one lump sum by properly accepting and endorsing a check. One of the things that you do here is like, for all those payments, your credit report will come up as showing, let's just say you had like 40 payments over the next 4 years. I'm just making up numbers. Your credit report would then show, once you accepted it properly and do all the right stuff. I haven't done this yet myself. Full disclosure, but I'm seeing the process and I'm working my way towards it. Once you get all of it done, it comes up on your credit as making all of those 40-something payments. And that boosts your credit right there. Once you have good credit, then you can apply for these high-ranked credit cards. You see how this works? But this only happens when you learn the laws, when you learn how things actually work in this world. Now, I know I just blew y'all's heads up, and don't get me wrong, the more that I progress through this, I'm going to become the next guru to tell y'all what's up and tell y'all how to do this stuff. But until then, I'm going to keep on learning in private, and I'm going to keep on sharing where I learn in public. That's another thing, learning the private and public. But that's a nice way to end it. Till the next one. Peace.